Legend of Zelda is without a doubt one of the most iconic video game franchises, and Nintendo knows how to profit off it with regular releases and spin-offs. For the longest time now, every year the company's released a Zelda game, yet we're now 3/4 of the way into the year and there's no 2022 Zelda game to be seen. What's going on? Last year's game was Skyward Sword, the year before that was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, and the year before that was Link's Awakening. So what about this year? They must have been working on something besides Breath of the Wild 2. So what can it be? When will it release? Let's find out. Back in spring this year, Nintendo released an announcement video explaining that Breath of the Wild 2 will be delayed until spring 2023. This has left a gap this year for a release, and considering we're so far into the year, I think it's safe to say we can expect an announcement soon, as in the next month or so likely. As they need a certain amount of time for a marketing campaign, I think it's worth pointing out that there's a Nintendo Direct right around the corner, so expect to see it there hopefully. As for what it will be, that's a bit more difficult to figure out. Seeing as a mainline entry is coming out next year, I think it's smart to assume that this year's will be a spin-off or a re-release of some sort. One option is that it could be a new 2D Zelda game. We haven't gotten one since A Link Between Worlds on the 3DS. It would be awesome to see a new one in HD on the Switch, or even just a remake of an older one, like A Link to the Past, but I don't think this option's very likely. Also, some people might not like this style of Zelda game. On the other hand, I know that you Nintendo fans will take anything sometimes. What's more likely is another 3D port like Skyward Sword HD. Now, there are a few options, such as Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, or Twilight Princess. For a while now there have been a few leaks about a Wind Waker / Twilight Princess HD bundle, and I personally think this is what it will be, as it makes the most sense. Both of these games have already been made into HD before, which makes it easier for Nintendo to port, but it also means they can't just release one on its own in HD like Skyward Sword, as it's already been done before. So, to add more value to it, they pair them together in a bundle, much like they did with 3D All-Stars having Mario 64, Sunshine and Galaxy. Just 2 in 1 though? Chances are they'll sell this at the same price as 3D All-Stars, but that got 3 games. They can't do that, can they? Well, it's worth pointing out that they did make Skyward Sword HD full price, even with it just being one remaster, although that did get a lot more treatment to it than each individual game in 3D All-Stars. There's always a possibility of them adding a third game into it, but it would have to be something smaller like Ocarina of Time, or a 2D game like Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Actually, it'd work quite well if they use Ocarina of Time, since they've already remade it once before on the 3DS. They could potentially use this, while upscaling it and removing the second screen feature. Easy. I'd love for them to do this, but I don't think it's particularly feasible. Nintendo knows now that they can remaster just one game and charge it at full price, and it will still be a bestseller. So if they don't have to add a third game, they probably won't. I believe they've had this game ready for a while and they've just been sitting on it, having it as a backup in case Breath of the Wild 2 has to be delayed, which it was. Considering there was no E3 Direct this year, I reckon they've saved it for the September Direct, as this year's Zelda game was probably originally planned for late 2022 anyway. I'll make a separate video on what to expect from the September Direct, so look out for that. They really are running out of time though. They'd have to announce it in September, then release it in October or November, just before the holiday season. If it's not at the Direct or announced at all in September, then I wouldn't expect a Zelda game this year, but chances are that won't happen. They've released one every year since 2013, so don't lose hope. Speaking of what Nintendo's planning for the future, click here to find out why the Switch doesn't have themes yet. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more.